Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 2nd of August of 2023. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. In this video one more time we're going to start with the ports on the Nile River with Ismail, with this settlement in the southern part of Odessa area. Today we got more videos, more photo confirmations of the results of Russian strike in that area. The Russians were using drones, the Russians were using missiles to attack this territory. According to the information we have, as a result of artillery, as a result of that strike, the Russians attacked the Ukrainian river port, the Ukrainian industrial area, fuel depot, and so on. And one more time, as we discussed during the previous video, the Ukrainians with the Western countries to try to make an attempt to enter this port when the Russians have established the blockade. There were three ships that were heading in direction of that port: the ship under Israeli flag, the ship under Turkey flag, and the ship under the Greece flag. And all those three ships, according to documentation, should have loaded in this area. But probably, of course, the Russians, one more time, don't have such a legal right to attack ships, fleet in the sea. Of course, it's really illegal. It could bring a lot of problems, so that's why the Russians took a decision to destroy the port. And this evening, the Western sources reported, and the Russian sources confirmed, that those three empty ships started their movements from that port in the back direction, trying to break the blockade one more time, but currently to the south in direction of Istanbul. So this is the situation about Ismail, and this is the real purpose, the real reason of that attack against that settlement. The Russians just wanted to show their power, and they shown that power to the Ukrainians and to the Western countries. Interesting update are coming from Crimea today. Another strike, Ukrainians made another strike against that area. As a result of the strike, the Ukrainians attacked the Russian military base, some in the vicinity of the airfield. Yet we haven't received any updates about the numbers or losses from the Russian side, but probably there were some losses. Now we are moving to Kherson area, and today we haven't received updates at all, just few video confirmations of some actions. The Ministry of Defense reported that as a result of artillery duels in this area, the Ukrainians lost 45 soldiers, 3 armored vehicles, and 4 artillery systems. The Russians continue publishing the videos of guided bombs usage, FAB 250 and 500. Probably this is the only area where the Russians are using this type of weapon. According to information we have, the Ukrainians try to accumulate their forces along the Dnieper River, and there is a very high chances that Ukrainians will use these forces to cross Dnieper River and to attack the Russian positions on their side of Dnieper River. Furthermore, the Russians published another video on how they managed to discover and to attack the Ukrainian positions in some probably warehouse or ammo depot on the Ukrainian side of Dnieper River. Now we are moving to Zaporozhye area and the South Donetsk area. First, we're going to start with Petykhatki. There are no clashes in this area. Neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians made any attempt to attack or to counterattack. But the thing that we got is that probably the Ukrainians were trying to make small reconnaissance in combat between Petykhatki and Konovalova in this area. And for those purposes, the Ukrainians sent a small squad with in the number of 2 armored vehicles, 1 tank T-64 and probably 1 armored vehicle. The Ukrainians entered the fields, and they were trying to attack the Russian positions from hidden positions, but the Russians managed to discover those forces, and probably as a result of artillery strike or as a result of mine detonation, both armored vehicles were destroyed. So basically the Ukrainians were trying to attack from Mali-Sherbaki to the south. Probably the Ukrainians with a tank were trying to get these positions, and after that, from these positions, the Ukrainians were planning to attack the nearest trenches in the first defense belt in this area. But as you can see the result, probably the Ukrainians even couldn't manage to start firing. And the Ukrainians published the video how they continue bombing and shelling Zhiribyanki. Currently, the Ukrainians are trying to they repeat the same story as with Staromayorska in the same area first. If the Ukrainians want to develop their offensive operation, first they need to destroy the stronghold to reduce the settlement to ruins. On this video, we see that this is an ongoing process. The settlement have been almost erased from the map. but yet we see that there are still a lot of things to do for the Ukrainians. Now we are moving to Orechov bridgehead. Today we haven't received almost nothing from this bridgehead. There is a small operational pause after a few days of rotation process that when Ukrainians were trying to change the forces on the ground and to bring some support and supply. Currently, the Ukrainian forces on the ground are waiting for another rotation process, and the Ukrainian main forces are located somewhere in the vicinity of Novodanilivka, Mao-Takmachka. The Ukrainians published the video how they discovered the Russian ammo depot in the south of Robotina, the ammo depot that Russian forces were using during the main phase of Ukraine's greatest offensive operation. The Ukrainians discovered that ammo depot and destroyed as a result of artillery fire. The Russians published the video of Ka-52 strike in this area. They managed to discover the Ukrainian armored vehicle, and within the distance of 10-15 kilometers, the Russians destroyed another armored vehicle in the Zaporozhye area. And we got another video of armored vehicle graveyard in this area. These tanks are old, and there is just a new armored vehicle that have appeared recently, and also was destroyed during the clashes during the previous days. When talking about Vremivka tactical bridgehead, we got few updates from the Ukrainian sources. This morning we got a piece of information that the Ukrainians start offensive operation in direction of Urozhaina from two sides. The first wave attack took place from the north of Staromayorska to the south, trying to establish fire control over the southern area of the settlement. And the second attack took place from the north in direction to the south. The Russians reported that they managed to repel both those attacks and forced the Ukrainians to step back. And furthermore, the Ukrainians during that attack were trying to cut the supply and support road in the area of that settlement. For example, in this video we see how the Ukrainians managed to discover a Russian convoy that were heading to the north, probably reinforcement, and as a result of artillery strikes, the Ukrainians managed to slow down the Russians. And also there was another video of drone attack, also the same days, the same situation. The Russians were repelling attacks in Urozhaina, and the Ukrainians were attacking the Russian mortar positions in that small settlement on the south of Urozhaina by the name of Zavitna Bazhanya. The Russians published the video of another helicopter attack in this area. The Russians are using two types of missiles. On this video we see the usage of Vikhr. The Ukrainian armored vehicle was heading in direction of Priyutina, and as a result of attack, that armored vehicle was destroyed. The Minister of Defense of Russian Federation reported that as a result of fierce fightings in the south Donetsk area and Zaporozhye area, the Ukrainians lost 220 soldiers, 5 armored vehicles. The level of losses was very heavy. And when talking about South Donetsk area, the Ukrainians lost 210 soldiers and 6 armored vehicles. This is a very heavy level of losses. 430 soldiers just for the previous 24 hours. So up to 1 battalion the Ukraine lost during those battles and clashes. The Russians published more updates from the south of Marinka. For example, on this video, the Russians provided us a video when the helicopter Mi-28 attacked the Ukrainian positions in that small settlement using the new type of missiles, Lemur, or equipment 305. This is the missile rocket for the helicopters that can be attacked within the distance of 15 kilometers. So basically these missiles make the Russian helicopters invisible for the Ukrainian air defense systems. And also the Russians published the video how they were bombing the trenches in the forest lines on the north of Novomikhailovka. This area used to be under Russian control, but after the Ukrainians launched counter-offensive operation, the Russians were forced to step back. So as I see, the Russians managed to regroup, to bring some reserves, and I expect that within the next few days the Russians will restart their attack, trying to return lost positions, and they will go to the south and they will try to capture, to return the lost positions. Yes. And now we're moving to Avdiivka and to Donetsk. We haven't received many updates. The only thing we got from the Spartan forces in the south of Avdiivka, the Russians published the video how they attacked and bombed the Ukrainian positions in the south of Avdiivka using drone. And this video we are using just to clarify the combat line, clarify the positions in this area of forces. And basically, according to this video, this is the fresh video, we got this video today. According to this video, we see that during the previous waves of counteroffensive operation that was made by the Ukrainians during the previous days, they managed to return their lost positions on the south of Donetsk main road. So basically, according to this video, according to geolocated video, we see that the Ukrainians during the previous counteroffensive operation managed to restore control over these positions. Now we will update this map before the next video. Now we are going to Bakhmut, and probably this is the only area with a massive number of updates from both sides, either from the Russians and from the Ukrainians. The Russians reported as a result of fierce fightings on the Donetsk front line, the Ukrainians lost 295 soldiers. The Russians managed to repel 12 attacks, and the Ukrainians lost 9 tanks. As you can see, we got a lot of updates from the Ukrainian side. During the previous 24 hours, the Ukrainians were bombing and shelling the Russians with all types of weapons they have, but mainly they were using drone. Their famous tactic of massive drones attack. On this video, we see how the Russians were trying to redeploy their forces using the light vehicle. The Ukrainians managed to discover, and after that, the Ukrainians attacked that armored vehicle. With these attacks with drones, it's very difficult to understand the losses and the damage that these drone Ukrainian forces can deal, because from one side we understand that probably they are able to deal significant damage, significant losses, but from another side we understand that sometimes, like with the case with this armored vehicle personal carrier, maybe the drone attacked, but whether the Ukrainians were able to destroy it or not. So this is a very light type of weapon, light vehicles. For example, another video from the same area, but on this case we see that Ukrainians managed to destroy Russian armored vehicle. On this video we see another attempt to attack by the Ukrainians, another armored vehicle that the Russians were using to supply and support their forces in Klishchiivka during those heaviest clashes. And the same video from the right in front of Andriivka. The same situation. The Ukrainians managed to discover Russian armored vehicle and to destroy or attack or to damage this armored vehicle with a drone attack. So let's see. Yes, the armored vehicle was damaged, but probably not destroyed. But I'm not sure that the Russians are able to use it. When talking about the Russians video, they destroyed another M77 howitzer behind Delivka in the vicinity of Kurdyumovka. The howitzer that Ukrainians were using to attack the Russian positions and to suppress their forces in Klishchiivka. Also, the Russians attacked few positions, also another artillery system, also the same area in the vicinity of Chasov Yar and Konstantinovka. The Russians were bombing heavily Klishchiivka and the area in the vicinity of Andriivka to slow down the Ukrainian offensive operation. And the Russians, probably this is the first normal geolocated video recent of the situation on the northern trenches of Klishchiivka. And according to this video, this area is completely under Ukrainian control, not even in the gray zone. The author of this video claims that Ukrainians captured the machine gun position and some stronghold, and the Russians understand that the only solution they have is to destroy this stronghold if they want to counterattack or something like this. Anyway, the situation in Klishchiivka is very critical. And the thing is that, one more time, I like to do this, if we increase the number of updates that we receive, let's say from the 23rd of July, we'll see the real picture of Battle of Klishchiivka. Based on different types of icon, we understand that this is exactly the Ukrainian tactic. To use drone massively. As you can see, more than 60-70% of events that took place in this area from the Ukrainian side were the usage of the drones. One more time, it's very difficult to understand whether the Ukrainians whether this tactic is successful or not, because sometimes you can just damage armored vehicle but not to destroy it. And as you can see, that 70% of the damage that Ukrainians dealt in this area is using the drone forces. And there are just 30% of icons showing that Ukrainians were using artillery systems and HIMARS systems. When talking about the Russians, there is a completely different situation. The Russians are combine their tactics like 50-50. 50% of drones and 50%, even not, 60% of artillery and 40% of drones. So there are two different tactics that both sides use. The Ukrainians are relying on drones, the Russians are relying on artillery. And probably currently both armies are very powerful. Both armies has very powerful weapon, and this is the question: which tactics is better, the Russians or the Ukrainians? And I believe that very soon we're going to see this and to understand this. Now we are moving further to the north of that area. We are going to talk about just a second. About the Seversk bridgehead. We haven't received many updates, just another video of Ukrainian forces, how they were bombing and shelling the Russian positions on the south of that small settlement. We are doing this video just to confirm the geolocation of Russian positions, and according to this video it's very difficult to understand what did happen there, but we see that there was a small close combat between Russian and Ukrainian forces in this area. The Ukrainian grenade launcher got as close as possible and then attacked Russian positions, and after that the Ukrainian artillery continued their job. And now we're moving to Liman front line. We haven't received any updates about any progress from both sides, just a regular artillery situation, artillery duels, just a regular close combat, but situation is stable. The Ministry of Defense reported that as a result of fierce fightings in this area, the Ukrainians lost 115 soldiers, 7 armored vehicles and 3 artillery systems. The Russians continue the usage of flamethrower system massively on this front line. Probably this is the main storming weapon, because I believe that it is much more easier to attack and storm Ukrainian positions if before the storming process flamethrower systems attacks these positions. For example, in this video we see another episode of usage of flamethrower systems, and as a result of those attacks some Ukrainian positions were heavily damaged, some Ukrainian strongholds that probably were captured later by the Russian storming forces. And the same situation in the vicinity of Karamzhinovka bridgehead. Also flamethrower systems attacks the Ukrainian positions, and as a result of those attacks probably a lot of Ukrainians stayed there. When talking about Kupiansk front line, we haven't received any updates, just another destroyed artillery system by the Russian forces in the vicinity of Petropavlovka. The Russians discovered Ukrainian howitzer, self-proffered, and as a result of artillery strike, that artillery system was destroyed. The Ministry of Defense reported that as a result of fierce fightings in the Kupiansk front line, the Ukrainians lost 40 soldiers. As you can see, the situation, at least of the 2nd of August, is pretty stabilized. And probably the main reason of that is that today a very important holiday in Russia, holiday of VDV forces. Maybe there are very fierce fightings, but because of this holiday, not many people are able to send some videos, some piece of information, some information, and so on. So we need to wait for tomorrow. I believe that if anything happened today, we are going to receive more updates tomorrow after this VDV holiday. But for now, we have what we have. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.